Okay. Were you really in an affair or were you groomed? Now, the and they don't necessarily need to be one or the other. They can be both. You can be groomed and be in an affair, or you may think that it's an affair and really you were groomed and this wasn't actually as consensual as you may feel that it was. Now, or even, I don't want to even say consensual. I want to say this wasn't fully you choosing for this whole time. And maybe the person that you were in a relationship with was really leading this. Now, for a lot of you, you've heard my story multiple times. Let me just itch my eye. For a lot of you, you've heard my story multiple times, and a lot of you have wanted me to explain more about the process of grooming that happened that led me to fall into a 7-year secret relationship with my boss. And I haven't shared so much of this apart, and I think it's really important. So I thank you for all of you that have asked for this, and let's get straight into it. Um, this can be quite an emotional video. It may hit many spots for you, and if it does, be gentle with yourself, go slow. If you need to pause the video, do so. If you need support after this, please reach out. I'm here to help you through this process. There is a lot of unfolding and understanding that happens when we've gone through an experience like this. So let's start in talking through some of the stages of grooming. The first stage is targeting a vulnerable audience or target. So in this case, for me, I had gone out far away from home. I was in my first job. My boss was around double my age, I think more, but I can't fully remember. This was my first job, so he was in a position of one, power. He was in a position above me. He also was highly in a position of trust and influence. He is my boss, the person that you look up to. I was also in a environment that was very new to me. I was in Outback Australia. I had never been in the Outback before, and so or introduced to farming before. And so this was a very new experience to me. And so in that, even if I was much older, I'm very say naive. I was naive, but also I was open to hearing everything and hearing how it's done. In this case, I hear many women say, I just lost a parent. I just lost someone in my life. I was going through significant health challenges. If you were in a relationship, it was not in a good place. And so this person came in and rescued you. And this is where it can feel so good, is the target, the person that is targeting or wanting to groom an individual, whether consciously or unconsciously, sees your vulnerability, and they see that there is greater access there to someone that is vulnerable because you yourself are more open to love, guidance, feedback, someone helping you, leadership, all of that. The next stage is gaining trust and access. Now, I've been going through this a little bit more in depth in Instagram. So if you want to go over there, you'll get more of an in-depth breakdown. But I'm just kind of going to gloss over or go over all the signs today. But this is where things get they just are there for you, and this is where you can feel like you're really close friends. They really get you like no one else. That no one's cared for you like this. You can have a lot of fun in this stage. My boss, he played drinking games, and I had never played any of these games before. And so I was like, oh, I was just very excited and open to be playing games that were new to me. I wasn't drinking. However, I was into all of these games. And so this just made me open, more available in this stage when gaining trust and access. the groomer can involve other individuals, which makes it seem a lot more subtle. So for me, my boss was also including my other employee, who was a farm worker. And so he was very much a part of these games. The person that lost the card game had to, what was it? The winner got a massage, and the person that lost had to go skinny dipping. And so I was I was just in for these crazy games that were like, oh, a little bit on the edge without noticing that, hold on a second, how appropriate is this? He was actually buying access to me with me naively just thinking we were playing a game. And because my other worker was very much a part of this, I wasn't picking up on anything. Another thing that he did is, I won't go into it at as much detail. I'm going to save this for my book that I'm writing, and also there's a little bit on Instagram, but I am slowing down because I'm going to save it all for, not all, but I'm going to save it for the book. The next sign is fulfilling needs and love bombing. And this is where things get really fun. So again, this is a real slow boil where he's just there for you. You're increasing encounters, and then now it's starting to get really fun. What happens in these situations where people have been groomed, and grooming does happen to both children and adults. So even if you're 50 and listening to this and you're like, well, I should know better, grooming is so slow, so calculated, that if you haven't fully learned how to have extremely healthy boundaries and see manipulation and gaslighting straight away, then you absolutely can be susceptible to this. The other thing that has happened within a lot of the people that I work with is that we have been denied our truth for so long, whether it be gaslit, manipulated, said we were wrong. Maybe that when we do express our truth, then we get retaliation or more emotion on the other side, and so we hold back our truth out of wanting to protect or cater for other people's emotions. When we have walked away from our truth for so long, you probably have been noticing, or you would have noticed the signs of grooming from the beginning and felt, no, this is off, or I don't fully align with what you're saying here or your intention here. And then you would have given him the benefit of the doubt, where you're like, yeah, but he's acting from a place of kindness. Say, for example, you've just lost your parent and he's buying you coffees every day, and you're just feeling like, wow, he's going above and beyond and really caring for me more than other people are caring for me right now while I've lost a parent. And then there's this other part of you that's like, it's a bit excessive, or why? Why is he going so far for me? When he is ultimately also, sometimes these people aren't married, actually. I know we're talking about a video where the person is in a relationship, but even if he wasn't, sometimes it can be like, why? Why this much? And this is where I do want to like honor yourself, for you did pick up things. And then because you also want to approach people with so much kindness and love, you also expect that other people would approach you in the same way. And this is not the case. We can be so overly trusting, and then people can violate this trust of yours and take advantage of it in a way that is not nice. And the truth is, this happens. And it can be painful hearing this, because you can love this man so much and be like, wait, did he ever care for me, or was he just playing with me? And this can be confronting. For now, what I just want you to look at is, what was I noticing in the beginning that did feel off, that I gave him the benefit of the doubt in, and yet I still had an alarm bell saying, hold on a second. So back to love bombing. This is where things get really good. I've in women in my community have mentioned that he came around with flowers to my house on a very early date, and he expressed how much he really saw them getting married. And there was this part of her that felt, this is too much too soon. Now, I don't doubt that two people can meet and can fully see themselves marrying each other and can express that on, say, a first date and it be fast and whatever. But if there is an inkling inside of you that feels this is off, or this is too soon, or this is too much for where we're at, listen to that, honor that, acknowledge that, even if it was in the past, acknowledge it. So for me, where did this show up? For me, we got to milk a cow. I had this 100 goals list, and I wanted to achieve these 100 goals lists within like the year. So you know how people have bucket lists and they want to achieve it within a lifetime? Miss Ambitious here was like, no, I want to achieve it I want to write 100 goals list that is achieved within like say a 12-month period, which is a bit crazy because we have 365 days in the year. So it's like achieving something every 3.5 days. However, I had it, and it was things like go on an outback holiday, which I had ticked off, learn to ride horses, milk a cow, shoot a gun, go in a helicopter. It was just all, I also had things like learn how to juggle and buy a house and all of these things. I don't know if buying the house was within the year. It was kind of just, can I do some of these things in fast time frame? And so he was like, wow, let's help you achieve all of these things. And I was pretty amazed at how much he was really helping me achieve these things. I thought, gosh, this person cares more than my family about me, about these goals that I have. He got the cow in that had a calf on it, and so it wasn't being milked, and then he brought it in and we got to milk it. He helped me shoot a gun. He was like, guess what I have in the back of the car? And he had a gun, and so we got to shoot some signs or something. He arranged the helicopter, I think 6 months after I had arrived, or a little bit further after I had arrived. Within the first year, he helped me buy a house. Within the first, I think, 6 months, I bought 10 cows as an investment opportunity, which also is anchoring me into this experience. So it's a lot harder for me to leave if I have more foot in the game or more investment into this experience. And so this is what happens with people that are in really unhealthy relationships is sometimes the person that is targeting them will create experiences where you have more skin in the game, which makes it harder to leave. So I just got high on this experience. I had so much fun. I was like, Mom, Dad, guess what? They're spoiling me. I got to do this today. What did you do today? I was reading back on these emails, and I'd write these cheeky emails like, oh, today I got to milk a cow. What have you done today? And then today I got to bottle feed a baby goat, or I got to bottle feed a baby cow. What did you do today? And it was just all these things every single day of all these new experiences that I was having, which was just lighting me up. The next thing is fulfilling needs. And this is where you can really get trapped. So for me, I had missed out on 3 years of schooling before going out to this farm. So I had been significantly sick and missed out on some 3 years of my, I guess, adolescence, very important, say, puberty years, growing up. And we would go on these drives, and he would be just concerned. He was like, wait, so hold on a second, tell me more about this. And I would open up and I would share about it. I would be vulnerable. I was saying that it was really challenging. I got sick. I was a high level runner, and then I got sick. And so everyone knew me for running. And then suddenly I was just a nobody. And so it felt like my whole identity got stripped away from me as soon as I got sick. And he was like, oh my gosh, that must be really painful. And then he was like, what happened to like your adolescent years? Like, you missed out on parties of like hanging out with all your friends, your girlfriends, or going to like the boys, like having boys and girls parties where you get to kiss boys or talk about boys or talk about periods or talk about orgasms or all of the self-pleasure, all of these things. And I was like, yeah, I missed out on that. And I was really enjoying these conversations because I had never had conversations like this before. I was very in the dark with all of this. So my thinking was not that, hold on a second, my boss shouldn't be asking me such intimate questions. I was thinking, oh, I've been a child. This is an adult. We're just having adult conversations. And so I immediately dismissed it, not knowing that it was anything bad or inappropriate. And he was going there. And so I was like, I definitely felt uncomfortable, but I thought my discomfort was because of my naivety and shame around sexuality, as opposed to, no, this is an adult man, my boss, asking me questions about my body. So he began to ask me questions. And this is where, so for you, if you weren't so young when this happened, he can also fulfill a need. Say, for example, if you've lost a parent, he could come round and help do your gardening or mow your lawns or bring you food when you're going through a grieving process. And this can immediately create attachment and a bond and dependency to the person that is grooming you. And what is actually happening is they're doing it with the intent to get something in the long term from this, as opposed to just a selfless, like, here you are, here's this, and then nothing else. For me, my boss then positioned himself as, I can be your teacher in this. I can feel all the gaps that you missed out on as a child because you were sick. And I was like, I'm gonna learn regardless. I'm gonna have new friends here that I meet. If I meet guys, like I'm going to, something that he said is, no guy will want you if you're so immature and naive about all of this. And you really do need to gain some more experience. And I was like, no, no, that's not correct. I didn't feel that was correct. And I said, no, like, if we have a really strong connection with the guy that I like, I know that we will learn together. And it is okay if I've missed out on significant experiences. If he is a good guy, he will work with me through that. And he was like, no, a boy might, but not a man. A man doesn't want a little girl. A man wants a woman that knows about herself and these experiences. And so I was just kind of like, this is where there was manipulation going on. And I didn't know that what manipulation was. And so I was just thinking, wow, he sees life differently. I didn't realize, just want to check my battery. I didn't realize manipulation and gaslighting was going on to such an extent. I just thought, one, I felt a bit of shame sometimes because I was like, is he a bit stupid? And then other times I just thought, okay, he like genuinely really cares about me and he just sees things differently. And that's okay. Everyone is allowed to see things differently. Another thing I used to say, but more down the line, was like, oh my gosh, you're so good at debating. Like you should be a politician or someone that debates, or like wherever you have to like win an argument, you should do it because somehow you just always win. And I felt dumb in this. I felt like I could never get my point across because I was being gaslit. And I just took it on as, you're brain dumb. Why can't you just articulate yourself? And it was like, no, you're articulating yourself fine. And he's not acknowledging you or listening. And then he's twisting it and flipping it around in a way that you just never feel seen, heard, understood, acknowledged. The next sign is isolation and dependency. And this is where you start to like, the person that is grooming you will start to begin to isolate you from the world. Now, for me, I was already isolated physically. I was out many hours away from home, 11 hours. I did say 12 in my Instagram, and then I was looking it up and I was like, oh my gosh, I got that wrong. But uh, I was far away from home. I was also the closest town. This is another one that I looked up just recently, and it was 15 minutes. I thought it was 30. Was a population of 50 people. And so I was one in the tiniest of towns, but I wasn't even in that town. I was out isolated on a farm, away from everyone, and we would hardly go into this town. So I was physically isolated. Now, for you, you probably weren't necessarily physically isolated like this. However, if you have come here because we're talking about infidelity, infidelity is isolating. You will be so shameful around the experience that you've gotten into. You either don't tell anyone at all, or you do tell someone, but you don't tell them the full extent, the full range of emotions that you're feeling, everything that has happened, because it feels too much, it feels too wrong, it feels too wrong to express all the good things, as well as maybe the red flags that you've been feeling, and you don't want your friend to say he's a bad guy when deeply you really care about him, because then you'll just feel misunderstood in this experience. And so, hold on, I need to shuffle because I'm a bit uncomfortable. And so you then are isolated in this. Infidelity is isolating. You have no one really to go through this experience with you. And then also, not just in expressing feelings, but when you're dating someone and people are seeing who you're dating, they can go, hey, that guy just didn't treat you right just then. Did you see that? Or, hey, like you can share current feelings that are going on in a dating experience, and people are watching that unfold, as opposed to you just filling someone in years down the track, or months down the track, or quite separate to the experience, because they're not involved in the experience with you. Where else is this isolating? The other thing that they can do is they can separate you from the people that are closest to you in your life. So for me, my closest friend was my sister. I felt like she is my best friend, someone that is so close to me. And he was asking about like me getting sick, and just at that period in our life, we were just young, hormonal, emotional, going through so many changes. And so I was just sharing these changes that were going on in the family, and that it's hard to understand like my illness, and that they too struggle with a child suddenly having all the attention and all of that. And he really was like, no, but your sister's not there for you. Look where she hasn't been there for you. And essentially, look where I am here for you right now. Like, did you get that same energy from your sister? And I was like, no, but I don't have any need to like bash her for not being there for me because of X, Y, Z, 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 or whatever. And he was like, no, look at this. And he would just really help me look at where he is being more helpful than the people in my life, my parents and sister, and all of this. And so I began to believe it. I felt like he was there for me more than other people, but where he was there for me was distorted. It was for his own need to get closer to me, as opposed to just naturally being there for me without needing to validate, hey, look, I'm doing more than other people are doing in your life. When that happens, you then stop reaching out to the people that are closest in your life, because you feel like they're actually not caring for you as much as this person is caring for you. And so you naturally begin to be separated from the people closest in your life, because they're putting them down slowly and highlighting things that are not good, without you realizing, hold on a second, now I'm being pushed away from the people in my life. When this happens, this is where you feel like, oh my gosh, my affair partner is my only confidant or my closest confidant, the person I tell everything about. And so it becomes really hard to end the relationship when you're dependent on having that person as the only person you can talk to, because you've been separated from everyone else. The next one is boundary testing and desensitization. For me, this is where my boss began to, again, go onto Instagram. I go into so much more detail there, and I've like actually properly listed out experience by writing it down and sharing each story day by day. But this happened for me where he he started to pinch my butt. He started to say that I looked good in the jeans that I was wearing. I thought because I had bought these Outback clothes that a compliment like that is good because that means I've shopped right, as opposed to no, your boss should not be commenting sexually on your appearance. Another thing with boundary testing was he started to ask me about if I had missed out on so much years on schooling, had I been learning to orgasm and pleasure myself, and what did I know about periods? And I thought it was just fully coming from care. And so I'd open up and he would be like, well, how about do you ever pleasure yourself like this? And I was like, no. And he's like, a lot of women do. And he was like, you should go try it. And I was uncomfortable by that. And so I didn't do it. And then he kept pushing and asking me, have you tried it yet? Have you tried it yet? Have you done your homework? I'm your teacher. And so eventually I did it. And he asked me how it went. And it was all this slow boil of thinking that he was doing it for my highest good without realizing I was heading for a sexual relationship without knowing. And this is where, ladies, so many of you say, I didn't ever expect myself to get into such a situation. This violates every part of my values, my standards, my morals for life. How did someone like me, get into this? And if you're saying this, if you've said this, I really invite you to reflect on where some of your boundaries that have been broken have been led by the other person in breaking them, as opposed to you actively going out to pursue a married man. Sometimes they could be worn down in a way that was slow, calculated, intrusive without you knowing that they were intrusive. Because if we haven't had a healthy level of boundaries represented in our childhood life, then we don't know when someone is fully crossing them, and we don't know yet how to say, no, stop, this is inappropriate. And then we get to sexualizing the relationship. And this is where things obviously move to an escalated position, and you wonder why, how did it get to this place? Well, it could have been days, it could have been months, or it could have been a year or two of this slowly happening that eventually caused you to fall so far in without you knowing that you were heading in this direction. For me, now this might not have happened to you. If you're young and this has happened to you, I'm so sorry. And if this didn't quite happen to you, then I invite you to look at where could this have happened in different ways. And it may not have happened, but just explore it from all different angles. But for me, because he had positioned himself as the teacher, he then positioned himself of teaching me sexuality and him showing me doing the physical, like learning the intellectual stuff and then participating in the physical stuff so that I get a well-rounded education. This makes me want to vomit when I say this, and it sounds so stupid. And the reality is, it is. No one should ever exploit you in this way. You deserve to actively be choosing for your partner as well. as opposed to someone constantly pushing your boundaries over time. Now, as I say this, when someone is pushing your boundaries, you can take this as, oh, they're really pursuing me, they're really wanting me. And because you haven't had proper example of love in your life, it can feel like they really care. It can feel good. It can feel like, oh my gosh, they really want me. And again, if you're saying no, then someone can give you love and care and support and attention and guidance without it turning into a sexual thing. And that is probably what you're really needing deep down, is just some protection, some guidance, some leadership from a masculine figure that you may have missed out on when you were younger. The next thing is maintaining the relationship through guilt, fear, shame, and this is where lots of gaslighting can go on. And this is where you really struggle to set your boundaries strong because they keep guilt tripping you. So for me, my boss was like, you're really helping us with the family. As soon as you've come along, there has been a pressure lifted off the family. I suddenly felt like obligated, or that I needed to support them in these messy ways. And if I didn't, then he would be more difficult, more angry, not treat his family right. And I felt like I was responsible for helping continue helping their family. Then, or not continue helping their family. I just felt pushed into this in a way that was in service to helping him. And I would feel guilty if I would set the boundary of, no, I can't be the person that is helping you for this. What else happened? Another thing that he said was, if I don't want this, he's just gonna go on to the next person. So it's like, fine. Something that he often said was, now let me remember the words. I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, if you say so. And it was completely invalidating what I said. And he was like, do what you want then. But it was coming from this place of, I don't agree. I'm going to withdraw my love if you act from this place. I'm not going to agree with you, but if do as you choose, kind of thing. And this would make me feel incredibly guilty. I wish I remembered the exact words, and I'm sure they'll come up, but notice where, and it's an energy behind it. Someone can say, like, do as you please. But someone else can do it when you're not in agreement with them, and they're like, fine, just do whatever you please. And it's coming from a rejection as opposed to, you do as you please. I'm in support of that. It's coming from an unsupportive place. And this immediately makes you feel guilty, wrong, shameful, rejected. And so this process of you stopping the sexual relationship, maybe keeping the friendship or the workplace relationship, but stopping the sexual relationship always comes at a significant cost. And this is where it's so damn hard to leave. And this isn't necessarily about you just not having the strength to leave, but the fact that there is a lot of manipulative, controlling currents that are underneath in this relationship that are going on. If you're going through this and you're really wanting to create a significant change moving forward, I highly recommend getting support from me so that we can start to see where some of these behaviors are unhealthy and not serving you, so that you can step into your strength, honor what you're feeling without feeling guilty because he's guilt tripping you. So if you want support through this so that you can finally move through this. Now, if you feel scared of leaving and not feeling ready to leave, like, we can talk about all of that. The easiest thing in creating change is about spotting the patterns, as opposed to forcing you to do something that you're not ready for. So as soon as we can start seeing the patterns that are maybe not healthy or not serving you or causing you to compromise in a way that's not aligned for you, the more that we can see this, the more that we can then choose for something differently. As soon as you see clearly, you then get to see in a different direction and choose for that lighter direction. So grooming is a big topic, and I would love to go into it in way more detail, but I just wanted to talk about infidelity from this place of, well, hold on a second, was this an act of choosing of me going out to have an affair? Or has someone come into my life and slowly decreased the boundaries without me knowing that this has been happening? And if this has happened, I am so sorry. It can be so confronting to be like, oh my God, has this happened in my life? This is someone I deeply love and care about. And has he just been playing with me? And I can support you through all of those feelings if you're wanting to do that. Links are in the description below. And I'll see you on the next videos. Bye for now.